Hey, everybody, what is going on? This is Michael Sweet here in my studio in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I want to just say that you are watching John the Ninja.
Awesome, let's rock it. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja live in the dojo. I'm skipping all the dojing and etc. You know, this is the John the Ninja Studios. The person I have here is just a remarkable example about how if you follow your faith, willingly or reluctantly, so many wonderful things can happen. Off the jump, let's just say where his musical journey started. The man, I would say, probably was most inspired when his father took him to go see Elvis at the LA Forum. No coincidence? Or it might be that Zeppelin played the same night, but he was inspired by the Chuck Berrys, the Fogertys, the Randy Rhoads, and fun fact, we are both Iron Maiden fans, and we both met Chris Jericho, though he's met more famous people than I have yet. The gentleman I have here formed a band with his brother. In '83, they got together. '84, they had the name, and then the rest was history, as they were the first inspirational band, I would say Christian band, that broke through the glass ceiling, that went through all the doors, took all the brunts and the hard hits, and they became something that you never would have thought. They became a Christian heavy metal band. The band itself isn't Christian, but the fellows in the band are Christian because they gave themselves to God. The gentleman I have here is Michael Sweet, and I'll tell you this, the band has 14 albums, 10 million records sold. First band in history to have two videos simultaneously playing on MTV's Hot 100, and they billboarded the charts with Whitney Houston. They set the stage for bands like DC Talk, POD, Skillet, Lecrae, and even Chance the Rapper. And because of their suffering, they've allowed others to prosper. And guys, I'm telling you, they're coming back to Vineland, New Jersey, September 17th. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored, and it's a pleasure to have Michael Sweet of Stryper on. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm just waking up. I had a long day yesterday in the studio. And finished the project, so it's crash and burn for me this morning. But yeah, I'm. Other than that, I'm doing great.
I must say, I'm sorry if I knew that. I would have been yelling and screaming during the intro. But most importantly, sir, it's mind boggling. This whole year has just been going back and forth. You know, you guys have basically dropped the final battle album dropped. You're working on all these other albums with Lynch, and you just dropped that you guys did the tracking for Icon, and all this stuff happening, even the retinal surgery again. I was wondering, how is 2023 actually treating you? Is this a year you're going to remember as like, wow, that was a whoa, that was a butt kicker of a time? Or was that something, is it a year you'll remember as in like, wow, this was really a year that it was push come to shove, and I'm happy I was able to shove back?
I think going back to basically 2003 for me anyway. Every single year since '03, and that's when Stryper reformed technically. We started a tour called the Celebration Tour in 2003. And, I had vowed never to return to the band and to just continue on with my life, doing other stuff and whatnot for many reasons. But in '03, from that point on, every year it's been like that. It's been a blur. It's been so much going on. I've been so busy with other projects, with touring, with writing, with life in general. And, it seems like the older I get, I'm 60 now. So the older I get, obviously there's more to stay up on and to be proactive with regarding health and all that kind of stuff. Like the eye was just a curveball that came out of nowhere. I didn't expect anything like that. And I'm dealing with that, on a daily basis. And I will for the rest of my life. Thyroid issues and, just all sorts of things that just things happen to people, and you get what you get, and you deal with it. So I'm not letting it slow me down any. I continue to work at a fast pace. I love working. My personality, when I was in the band Boston, they used to call me the Energizer Bunny and Tigger, because I'm just kind of like, all right, let's go, let's do it, and that's just how I'm built. That's how I'm wired. I love to work. I love to drive fast, and that's been my life, especially since '03. So I'm very fortunate and very blessed.
And I love how you mentioned that you did get to perform with Boston and Journey. But Journey is underrated. I saw them with Def Leppard, and I was like, I don't know, y'all might have just got blown off the stage. But I do love how you addressed having to deal with the aging of time. Something that caught me off guard the last time I saw you guys. Around that time, you posted something. You had a conversation with Kip Winger, who has also been through the ringer, and not because he's Christian, just because of Lars from Metallica. But you stated that you had reservations about dropping the tune. Your voice, you're having a little trouble keeping the high notes. That comes with time as a singer. A lot of people don't understand you're a slave to your voice. So if you got a gig the next day and your voice is gone, you got to figure it out. But you stated something that caught me off guard. You said you were apprehensive to drop the tune and to save your voice. And it kind of made me wonder, like, well, here's a guy who's, gone all over the world. He's had crap thrown at him. He's been threatened, people trying to hurt him, the band just being trashed for what they represent. And here, this is actually bothering him. I was wondering, did you feel that dropping the tune may have diminished something of the band? And what was it about Kit's statement that it was like, hey, you know what? He's right. I can do this and we can keep going.
Well, it's when you change anything in a band, whether it's the tuning of the songs or the stage setup to make it easier for the band to get through the set or whatever it is. And that all that stuff usually comes with age as you get older. You start to realize, like, am I compromising? You start asking yourself that question daily. Am I compromising? Am I shortchanging the fans? Am I shortchanging myself? And maybe, at the end of the day, it's a silly thought. And most people would probably say, oh, gosh, come on, that's silly. You don't need to think like that. But you still think like that. And especially someone like myself, because I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect and the best and just like it used to be, at our peak. And when we drop the tuning, I start to feel like, gosh, am I compromising? Am I letting the fans down and letting myself down? But then I reached out to Kip Winger and I started going online and researching, a Firehouse, CJ, Sammy Hagar. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You could go on YouTube and find most bands and almost all bands at my age, they've dropped the tuning down. And it's the way it works, because it does make it easier on the vocalist. And the thing is about not just me as a lead singer, making it easier for me, but also for Oz and Perry. We're singing these 3-part high vocals night after night after night, and it starts to wear and tear. And, all these other vocal coaches come out of the woodwork and say, oh, you're not singing right. You're not doing it. If you're singing right, you can get through 7 shows in a row, tuned up a half step. And it's like, no, not true. False information. Your voice is a muscle, like any other muscle in your body. And if you overwork it, it's not going to function properly. It's just the way it is. You got to give your muscles time to replenish and to rebuild. Same thing goes for the voice. So tuning down has helped me a lot to get through the sets. Am I having trouble? Not really, a little bit. But, it's more so based on I've got some nodules in my thyroid that I've talked about. And those are really giving me more trouble than anything, because they've gotten large enough where they're starting to press on my vocal nerve and my vocal folds. And it gives me a little bit of a hoarseness all the time, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to sing like I need to.
Something that I always love about music is it doesn't matter where you're from, what you believe, it's going to bring you together. You guys have had the leader of the Satanic Church go, man, I love you guys. You're my favorite band. We can't tell anybody. And, even everybody loves the King Diamond story. But then vice versa, the pastor that initially brought you and your family to God, he was bashing you guys. And, later down the line, he actually got his comeuppance for hypocrisy. But, it always interested me, that dynamic of, how music reaches people. And you've heard the stories of people saying, hey, I was suicidal. Hey, I was on the brink and you guys saved me. I was curious, what was the moment for you in life where you met somebody who did that for you? And that humbleness, that reciprocation was given to you. You were the fan. The shoes were on the other foot.
Oh, gosh, so many. I mean, there's a dear friend of mine by the name of Michael Guido. He is, I call him the 5th member of Stryper. He's always been there from day one. And even when he's not there in the physical, he's always there. And because he's always texting us and praying for us. And he's such an incredible support system. And we love him. Raul Reese, our pastor from California, that's where we began. Stryper would go to church, and it was the four of us with big hair and makeup and spandex wearing to church. And then the next week there'd be four more people, and then the next week four more, and this went on. And after 6-7 months, there were 4 or 5 pews filled with metalheads, from the Stryper era, that we were bringing to church. And Raul Reese, it was his church, which was Calvary Chapel of West Covina, which is now Golden Springs. He's my pastor, always will be. If it wasn't for Raul, I wouldn't be sitting here, or Michael Guido. Joe Amaral, another pastor, a friend of ours, who, if it wasn't for him, all these guys, they play such an important role in my life, helping me stay on the straight and narrow and observe things from a different point of view. So that's why it's important to have people like that in your life. But my dad's a big inspiration musically, always been encouraging. My mom, obviously, too. My mom co-managed the band and managed the band way back when. But my dad, he's kind of the unspoken hero. That song, The Wind Beneath My Wings, he's kind of that guy that didn't always get credit, but deserves all the credit, because he's the one that gave me his bass amp and his bass guitar, and always did everything, gave us every garage to rehearse in, and always gave up and sacrificed for us.
Now that you're onto that, because your dad was basically the one that told your brother, hey, man, have your brother sing. And he's like, now look at you guys. People have different ways how God talks to them. It always interests me. Some people get dreams. Some people have a shift in their thinking and they notice it. How did you feel, being that you grew up with Christianity, and it's a lot different than finding it later in life? How do you feel God speaks to you, or if you need an answer, how do you feel like you can become in a mindset to be able to listen and hear that answer?
Well, growing up with Christianity is kind of partially true, but yet not completely true. And so what I mean by that is, I grew up knowing there's a God, but early on in my life, up until the age of 12, we didn't go to church. I didn't pray. I didn't have fellowship with God. And then once Jimmy Swaggart, we started watching him, and we all committed our lives to Christ through Jimmy Swaggart. That's when we got involved in the church, but that was short-lived. I went to church and played on the worship team and did all that for a while, but then I got out of that once I started playing clubs, and I got caught up in that whole scene until the age of 20. So when I came back and rededicated my life, it made it much easier for me to do so, looking back on my early days, like realizing, yeah, God was there for me then, and he was there for me then, and he was there for me then. So I'm giving a complete life commitment to him. So it really gave me a perspective on my relationship with God, and how God works, and his ability to always come through, even when we think he isn't or hasn't. He does. When you're in the storm, it's really easy to think that you're forgotten about, and you're drifting away, and you're done. You're going to get consumed by the storm. But, somehow miraculously, and even sometimes at the very last second, God gets you through. And you look back and say, wow, I got through that. And a lot of people don't give credit to God on that. They give credit to themselves, or they give credit to the world, or what have you. And, that's okay. I made a statement not long ago that I think every single person on the planet Earth, on their deathbed, will acknowledge God. And I got a lot of grief for that. People who are atheists, obviously, were like, how can you say that? How disrespectful to us. And I'm like, well, that day will come. When you're on your deathbed and you're faced with your own mortality, and you're going, you come to the realization very quickly that there's a higher power, and you give it up. I've seen it firsthand. People on their deathbed want to accept Christ and want to say a prayer, and because you're fearful, like, okay, this is it. I'm out of here. Where am I going? Am I going to heaven? Am I going to hell? And it's interesting that you wait a lifetime to come to that realization. And that's pride. That's all that is. It's just a built up wall of pride that keeps you from God. But when you're broken down and you have no pride and you're dying, that's when you let him in. And, I made that statement, and boy, did I catch some grief for that. That's all right.
What's the best piece of advice someone's ever given you? Something somebody could have said seriously, like, "Hey, let me sit you down," or something somebody just said, like, "Bro, just live fast, die old." All right, and then you kind of had to construct it, like, what's advice that every now and again, even though it's not always present in your mind, when something's going down, you're struggling, like a Bible verse, like Isaiah, it just comes back and it's like, hey, you know what? Let's keep pushing it.
Yeah, obviously the Bible verse that we use and you see with every logo, Stryper logo out there is Isaiah 53:5. That's my favorite scripture. People say, "Oh man, come on, come up with something else." That's a bit of a cop out, but it really is, because it says it all. It says in certain translations, it says, "By His stripes we are healed," and it's just as simple as that one sentence. And we are healed if we believe, if we have faith. We are healed. Our problems can be resolved by His stripes, by the blood that He shed, the crucifixion, what He went through on the cross. But in terms of advice that people are giving me, and I don't listen to it, sadly, is to slow down, enjoy the ride, breathe easy. Just take time before you react, all that stuff. Because, like I said, I'm fast paced. So it's difficult for me. I'm wired to drive 100 miles an hour instead of some people are wired to drive 40 miles an hour or drive the speed limit. I'm wired to drive over the speed limit. So it's difficult for me to stop and smell the roses. But that's the best advice. Just chill out, enjoy what's around you. Go outside and smell the air and look at the blue sky and enjoy your cup of coffee.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is Michael Sweet of Stryper. They are returning to Vineland. You have to come see the show at the Landis Theater. I was there. They just lifted COVID restrictions. That place was packed. They came in. They killed it. I'm looking forward to seeing Transgressor. That's me asking for Transgressor. But, sir, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you coming on.
Man, it's been an honor. Thank you for having me so much.
And everyone else, be smart, be mindful, rock on. Check out the Bible, and we'll see you next time. Ninja out.
Hey everybody, Michael Sweet of Stryper here, and I'm excited to tell you that I am a part of many projects. Not only Stryper, we're going to be starting on a new album in January. Don't have a title yet for that, but it'll be coming soon. But also Iconic is coming, another band I'm a part of, and Sweet and Lynch, of course. We just released a new album, Heart and Sacrifice. And I've also got a new project coming out this year in November called Soul Driver, which is kind of a cross between Journey, Foreigner, more of an AOR old school vibe on that one. But you guys, thanks for supporting what I do. I'm so honored to still be doing it, and I'm a blessed man, and I look forward to you guys catching up and hearing everything that I've got going on.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. All your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.